You are now tuned in to the Expert Advice for Men podcast. For more information, visit us at www.expertadviceformen.com. And here is your host, Bill Town Radley.
Hey guys, welcome again to the Expert Advice for Men podcast. So we've been hitting the entrepreneurial topics of discussion hard as of late. So we're going to switch gears on this episode and go deep into the topic of technology. And there aren't a lot of brands out there that are closely associated to the word technology, more so than Elon Musk's company, Tesla. On today's podcast, we have Tesla expert Christian Amirkhanian. Christian is not only a Tesla owner and enthusiast, Christian is a founder of Everything Tesla, an Instagram news and information page which recently passed 100,000 followers. Christian is here to answer your questions in regards to Tesla ownership, maintenance costs, insurance costs, his experiences, and his opinions on Tesla's economic future. Be sure to listen to the end because Christian also announces a prize giveaway Everything Tesla is promoting, as well as information on receiving his referral link for 1,000 miles of free Tesla supercharging. If you have ever considered going EV or purchasing a Tesla, this podcast episode is for you. So without waiting any longer, here is Christian Amirkhanian on the Expert Advice for Men podcast. We've got Christian Amirkhanian from beautiful Los Angeles, California. Christian is a Tesla owner, enthusiast, and founder of the wildly popular Instagram page Everything Tesla, which recently passed 100,000 followers. Christian is here to answer questions for all of us that are interested in making the switch to EV and would like some expert advice from someone in the know. So good evening, Christian. How are you?
Good. Thank you, Radley. Thank you so much for having me.
Excellent. Thank you for coming. So first off, with each guest, if you listen to our podcast, guys, so our audience has a better context of our interview, we ask all of our guests their age.
So I recently turned 24 years old.
Okay, awesome. Oh, the good days. I'm 42, so switch those numbers, and I'm just a wee bit older than you. So before we get started, actually, with talking about Tesla and EV, I just wanted to know personally about your Instagram page, Everything Tesla. When did you start, and what inspired you to start that page?
So I started, I would say, I've had my car now for a year and a few months, and I started a few months before that. So probably a little over 2 years now was when I started the Instagram page. And honestly, the inspiration has just come from Tesla itself. I can't even say that it's come from EVs in general. Because in my opinion, no other car manufacturer seems to be producing equivalent levels or anything that Tesla is producing. So yeah, just Tesla and their mission to get to sustainable energy as fast as possible. And I figured Instagram would probably be the best way to go about informing the public that is not as aware of what Tesla is doing on a daily basis. So that was kind of the inspiration.
So you touched on this already. I was going to ask this question. What's inspired you to going electric vehicle?
So thankfully, I'm fortunate enough where my parents still help financially. So I am a full-time pre-med student and I do not work as of right now. Won't for a few years until I get through the med school process. But thankfully, they're generous enough to help and they were kind of on board with the mission too. It's kind of hard when your parents are paying for your car to convince them to get something on the more expensive range. But when you look at the pros and cons of everything Tesla stands for, it ends up being well worth it. Just the basic cost difference in gas and electric would inspire someone to purchase an EV. And then when you add the looks and the functionality of a Tesla, it kind of makes it a no-brainer.
Right, and we'll talk more about that in a moment here. So which Tesla model do you own currently?
So I purchased the long-range rear-wheel drive Model 3, and I was kind of limited on options when I purchased the car because I made the reservation the first day that the reservations were available. I did that in person at their Pasadena retail location, and that was before even seeing the car on the live webcast that they did. So they did that at night, and then the online orders opened and I guess flooded the internet that night. But I made my reservation 2 years before I got my car, and then actually picked up the Model 3 on April 27th of 2018.
Okay, excellent. So I want to do a little bit of a comparison. I'm going to assume you've owned gasoline vehicles before. What gasoline vehicle have you owned in the past? So we can make a bit of comparison.
Sure. So my family is a sucker for Mercedes-Benz.
Nice.
And so my first car actually was a C-Class, a C250, and it was a four-door sedan. Loved the car, absolutely loved it. But mind you, I had no idea what Tesla was at that time. That was followed by another C-Class, and then followed by a GLA, is kind of their crossover SUV, their compact SUV. And that was the last thing I drove before I got the Tesla.
Okay, compared to your Model 3, I'm thinking the the C-Class, that's pretty good comparison, I would say. So let's go point by point here. As far as maintenance costs, Mercedes versus the Tesla, in your opinion, where does that pendulum swing?
So typically we tend to lease the vehicles that we own, but with the Tesla, of course, we purchased, and I can delve into that a little later. But as far as maintenance costs, when you do lease a car from Mercedes, they tend to include those costs within the lease. So I'm not 100% sure as far as dollar to dollar comparison, but I could definitely tell you that there's more that you need to pay out of pocket for a Mercedes versus a Tesla, just because of the warranty and the lack of having to maintain certain things. So for example, in a gas vehicle, there is the engine, there is the motor, there is the windshield washers, there's the tires, there's the brakes, which a lot of people swap out every couple of years. So those things are for the most part eliminated when you have a Tesla. So I mean, not even dollar to dollar comparison, but just in general, there's a huge difference between maintenance costs. And then typically when you're in a different car by a different manufacturer, they tend to kind of let you be on your own as far as a rental vehicle. So there's also that to consider. Whereas Tesla provides you a rental car, which is done through Enterprise. And for the most part, it tends to be a Model S or a Model X vehicle.
So you're saying through just ownership of a Tesla, they provide rental cars if you have any type of a warranty service?
That's right. Yeah.
Wow.
And if they can't provide you the car, I've had cases where they've even driven out a car to me and then had their employee lift it back to the repair shop.
Man, that's some serious customer service right there. How about let's go to the next point. Just if maintenance costs, gas costs. Of course, there's
Sure.
gas versus the electric. On a month, what would you say the difference would be as far as gas costs versus electric costs?
So on a normal season where gas prices aren't through the roof, I was probably paying between $300 and $350 a month.
Okay.
With the Tesla, it's kind of hard to put an exact number on it because it's tied into the electric bill of my house and all the appliances and whatnot that we use. And that changes on a monthly basis to begin with. There's high seasons where it's scorching hot outside and the AC is on all day versus in the winter when the AC is not on. But just to compare, it seems like from what I've looked at, I'm paying around $100 a month to charge my Tesla.
So it's about a third of the cost.
About a third
of the cost. Excuse me. Yes.
Right.
And so how
Yeah.
about just reliability? I know Mercedes reliability versus Tesla reliability. You've had your Tesla for a couple years now.
So as far as reliability, it's hard to compare Teslas to other manufacturers because other manufacturers have been around for so long. So Tesla's still kind of working out their kinks. But as far as hardcore reliability goes, so not the nitty gritty or being picky about, cosmetic issues, it's certainly very reliable. I haven't had any technical issues. All the issues that I've taken in my Tesla for were cosmetic issues. And that was only because I was within the first 15,000 people that got their Model 3. So they were still working out all their little flaws. The body panel gaps are not as tight as, say, a Mercedes would be. I mean, Mercedes has been around for, I don't know, probably 60, 70, 80 years, who knows? But they've become really good at crafting their cars. So it's kind of hard to compare. But as far as the important reliability, I've had zero issues.
Like
with my Tesla.
drivability and
Right,
Okay,
right.
I hear
As far
you.
as drivability and all the problems I've had are cosmetic issues.
Yeah.
Things that I could have easily not been as picky about.
And now, how about insurance costs versus the two? What
Sure.
are the differences there?
So I currently have Allstate insurance, and that's running me $166 a month. And so you should keep in mind my age and how long I've been driving, because that tends to increase insurance prices. But Tesla did just recently I would say less than a month ago, released their own insurance in which they are promising 20%, 10 to 20% cheaper costs for insurance.
Wait, I'm sorry to stop you. You said that Tesla is
Sure.
providing their own insurance, like Geico or Allstate. They're going to provide their own insurance to Tesla owners. That's amazing.
Right. So
Wow.
yeah. So I think it's if you just Google Tesla insurance, it'll probably be the first link that comes up. They didn't do a big announcement about it or anything, but everyone in the Tesla community kind of knows about it because insurance rates are so high for Tesla owners. And I think because it's such a new company that insurance providers are still kind of scared at what could go wrong. So rates are a little higher than most other cars. But yeah, Tesla does provide now their own insurance where you can go in and customize the exact coverage that you want. And I matched the coverage that I'm getting on Allstate, and it was a few dollars cheaper. So hopefully they'll work to reduce that rate even further. But as of right now, it was like $10 cheaper than what I'm paying at Allstate. The only problem with that is if you go with Tesla is right now they don't do like a family plan. So it's just for the person that drives the Tesla vehicle.
See. Okay. Well, that's actually interesting. That's news to me. That's really good that we're doing this here. Now, in owning your Tesla, were there any maintenance considerations you didn't expect to happen that you should new owners should expect to look out for?
So any maintenance considerations, I wouldn't say anything that I've been forced to do that I didn't think I would be able to do, but maybe the opposite. So I was thinking that I would have to at some point replace my brakes. But a few months after I got my vehicle, Elon tweeted that the Model 3's brakes are good for 1 million miles.
What?
Yeah.
Seriously?
So it's kind of crazy, but basically, if you consider the regenerative braking on Tesla vehicles, we're go into that really quick so your viewers your listeners can get a better sense of what I'm talking about. But regenerative braking is for I believe in every electric vehicle. And that's when the motor spins in the opposite direction when you let your foot off the accelerator. And that slows down the car without you having to apply the brakes. So for the most part, I do not use my brakes on a day-to-day. The only time I do use my brakes is probably the last 5 or 6 miles per hour as I'm coming to a stop.
Actually, I wanted to add something to this. I drove my very first Tesla back in May. It was my dad's. He lives in Honolulu, Hawaii, so I don't have a chance to see him a lot. And it was a Model X. And now I see what you're talking about. For everybody who knows, who's driven Tesla, who hasn't, it was very interesting, the braking on it. It wasn't just like a regular gas car where it kind of slows down and then you have to press the brake. It literally slowed down on its own without even braking. So that's what you're discussing. Okay, this is like a light bulb moment for me here. So that's the regenerative braking. That's what that was. Okay.
Right. Yeah. So that's super helpful on the freeways, especially because for the most part, you don't slam your brakes on the freeways to begin with in another car. So it's perfect for, letting your foot off the accelerator and then the car slows down for you. So I find myself not even touching the brakes on the freeway and then tapping the brake the last 5 or 6 miles per hour as I'm coming to a stop at like a stop sign or a red light. Okay. So because you're not using your brakes, nearly as much as you would be in a gas car, they should be good for 1 million miles based on what Elon Musk has tweeted.
Interesting. So we all get all these statistics and stats on each model online. So people who are interested probably know which model and which they want the 60, the 70, or the 90. As far as your Model 3, the battery life, has it gone as advertised for you?
So interestingly enough, the Model 3 battery has been outstanding. I haven't had any degeneration of my battery whatsoever since, let's see, I've had the car now for 1 year and 5 months, 4 months, and I've driven right under 15,000 miles, and I have zero degradation on my battery. So what that means is on a full charge, I will still get the advertised 310 miles of charge. And typically they don't recommend that you charge your battery every day to 100% just because that's not healthy for a lithium ion battery. So same with your phone, but that's not advertised as highly for your phone because the battery is not as big to begin with. But it's best to charge your battery between 90% and probably 80%. So I typically shoot for 90% just because I want the most range that I can get on a daily basis, but I end up not using it anyways. But yeah, I still get, so at 90%, I get 281 or 280 miles to the charge, and it's limitless because there's superchargers everywhere. So even if degradation was an issue, it's not really But yeah, we can dive into superchargers a little later.
Actually, that we wanted to dive into that now because being that I've never owned a Tesla, I'm actually curious how they work. You see them everywhere now in the malls, even some apartment buildings here in the Seattle area. I mean, Seattle, so many tech companies out here. You got superchargers on every block. So basically, how do they work? Is there a subscription fee? Do you pay per use? How do their superchargers work?
So superchargers are so much easier than someone would think. So at a gas station, you have to pull up. Typically, the person walks in, says to fill up a certain meter at a certain dollar amount, and then walks back to the meter and then puts the pump in their car and starts pumping away. With a supercharger, it's dumbed down to the easiest possible method. So you just pull up to the supercharger, grab the handle, plug it in the car, and it starts charging. When you're done, you press the button or it'll notify you that you're done on your phone based on the limit that you've set it to charge to. You'll plug it back in and drive off. So you get charged through your account, through your Tesla account. Every Tesla owner has a Tesla account on the website, and they will just bill you on your account, assuming you don't have free supercharging credit or your car doesn't have free supercharging for the life of the vehicle.
Okay, so say you are at 25% and you wanted to hit that 90% mark you were talking about. Approximately how long does that take on a supercharging station, and how much would that typically cost?
Let's see, 25% to 100 or 90%. 25% would be, say, about 50 miles. 100 miles, yeah, say about 75 miles. So 75 miles to 280 miles is about 200 miles of charge. So the version 2 superchargers charge at 500 or 600 miles per hour, close to 600 miles per hour. And the version 3 superchargers, which they're actually rolling out now to the new locations, will do over 1,000 miles of charge at its peak charging rate. And that's per hour.
Per hour.
And it tapers down as your battery fills up. So the charging rate does decrease as your battery gets closer to full, but for the most part, it does stay pretty consistently above 300 miles per hour at least. And that'll be around, typically for me, it's been around 25 or 30 minutes of charging.
Okay.
And cost wise, I think the highest charge I've seen on my account is like $15 or $14, somewhere around there. But I haven't been paying for superchargers for a few months now, and that's all thanks to the referral program. So
right, and talk about your referral program. I saw that on your website, your Instagram page.
Sure. So every Tesla owner gets their own referral code or link, I should say. And with the referral link, they're able to, I guess, self-promote Tesla as a brand to their friends and family or whoever that they want to share their referral link with. And what that gives the other person is it happens to change actually from month to month. For the past few months, it's been 1,000 miles of free supercharging credit. So anyone that orders a brand new Tesla and orders it through my exclusive Tesla link, they will actually get 1,000 miles of free supercharging, and that's good for 12 months for them. So their first 1,000 miles of supercharging will be completely free, and then they'll get charged after that.
That's awesome.
The normal rate.
That's great. And we're going to have all those links to that on our website, on all of our social media channels. And of course, guys who are listening to this, make sure you're going to follow your Everything Tesla on Instagram. I mean, not only does it have your referral links, beautiful pictures of new Teslas, the latest news on all the models coming out. Now, taking your Tesla to the shop, do you have to go to Tesla for maintenance of your Tesla, or can you take it to any shop?
So there are Tesla authorized body shops out there. They won't do the nitpicky things that Tesla will do for you. So for example, all the things that I've taken in my Model 3 and 4 have been cosmetic issues, and that's all done through Tesla directly. And then any major body shop issues, body panel repairs or replacements, that's done at a body shop. Tesla just doesn't deal with insurance when it comes to accidents and whatnot. So they do send you off to an authorized body shop, and the authorized body shop will deal through Tesla directly for parts.
Okay, excellent. So, I'm sold. I want to buy a Tesla now. So what were the first steps I should take or you recommend to a friend who is seriously considering purchasing a Tesla?
So the first thing I would recommend is either go to a retail location or keep an eye out for Teslas on the road. See which model pleases you the most, which one you gravitate towards the most. And of course, consider costs, because there's huge differences between the Model S, the Model X, and the Model 3. But the first thing you can do is, besides going to a retail location, is go on their website. Their website is actually extremely helpful because they've dumbed it down to the most basic, just running through a build and price mechanism that's on every big manufacturer's website nowadays. But you can walk yourself through that, find out the pricing for all the different options. And if you were to customize the car exactly how you like it, you'll know how much it'll be for leasing, for a loan, for cash, and see how you like that. Then you can walk into a store, ask any of the employees for any help if you still have questions. I'd be happy to answer anyone's questions through direct messages on Instagram. So if you guys want to reach out to Everything Tesla on Instagram, that would be another way. But I think going online and a retail location is probably the best way to start if you're considering purchasing a Tesla.
Now, I read or heard from a friend that you can test drive a Tesla for 24 hours. Is that true? And is that what you did also?
So this used to be a thing. I'm not sure if they still do this or not.
Okay.
Anyone that was interested in purchasing a Tesla and was serious about it, I think they would offer a 24-hour test drive. I think they have since done away with that because the Model 3 is on such a bigger scale that it's just not a feasible option for them. But there are definitely people out there that are willing to lend their car. You can definitely rent cars, Teslas, through Turo or other rental car services. But the best way is probably to do a test drive because Tesla still does test drives. Even though they don't sell their cars at retail locations directly, they do still do test drives. So you can always get online and sign up for a test drive and go do that and have all your questions answered by a sales associate.
So we've probably answered all the questions as far as the basics of the Tesla and all about your experience. Now, just a little bit of opinion, because I know this has been in the news a lot of the next couple of questions I'm going to ask you here. But it's in your opinion, the Autopilot feature, it's been on the news a lot, people sleeping and people having videos of that. I don't even know how that feature works. People say you're supposed to have your hands on the wheel anyway. What's your opinion on the Autopilot feature from all the stuff that you've seen on the news and on TV and on the internet?
Sure. So just some background info for your listeners. Basically, anytime you engage Autopilot, it does warn you on the screen to, keep your hands on the steering wheel and keep your attention on the road. And you do have to sign a waiver the first time that you engage Autopilot. So when you go through the settings of your car and you turn the Autopilot feature on, it actually prompts you to make sure that you've read everything there, all the terms. I have seen, people being irresponsible on the internet. It's unfortunate because it does paint a bad picture for the rest of us drivers that are responsible. I always like to say that even if you're on Autopilot, it's not a completely full self-driving feature yet, and your attention should definitely be on the road. Thankfully, Autopilot is pretty safe. So the people that are sleeping in their cars, I wouldn't be too worried about what's going to happen if you're driving next to them, but they definitely shouldn't be doing that in the first place. So if their hand is on their steering wheel, basically, I guess it stops the car from nudging them or warning them to put their hand on the steering wheel. So maybe they fall asleep with their hand on their steering wheel, and that's how they're able to get so far. But if their hand is not on the steering wheel and there's nothing putting weight on the steering wheel in any direction, the car should turn on its hazards after, several warnings and audible chimes and warnings on the screen. It should turn on its hazards and slowly come to a stop. So Tesla has put that in place for emergency purposes in case someone has a heart attack or something.
Right.
I mean, hopefully, eventually they'll have it where it pulls off to the shoulder of the road, but for now, that's the mechanism they have in place.
Now, several online publications, you hear this on the internet a lot. Tesla's been teetering on the edge of possible bankruptcy. What's your opinion on this?
Sure. So, with someone like Elon Musk as the CEO of such a scrutinized company, it's hard to say, but I'm fairly certain. I myself own a few shares of Tesla, so this may be a biased opinion, but I definitely do think with someone like Elon Musk on their side, they're going to be perfectly fine. I've actually had the privilege of reading Elon Musk's biography, and the amount of dedication and hard work that he puts into his projects, I don't see Tesla going high and dry anytime soon. There is a lot of scrutiny and, I guess, chatter in the media, especially by investors, but they tend to be the ones that are bitter that they invested at the wrong time, or they didn't invest in the right company, and now Tesla's here doing well. Unfortunately, they haven't been doing too hot the last year as far as stocks go, but they haven't been a disaster either. So I think they'll pick back up once they are more widespread and more recognized. I think people will hop on board.
So I was curious also because like I said, I don't have any experience in EV, and this is kind of a nice beginning to learning all about this stuff. Now, Porsche has their EV coming out. Lamborghini has the Scion that's coming out. Every company has their new EV. I was just curious, those charging stations that I do see in the mall, are there some that are specific for just the Tesla and just the Honda and just the Toyota, or there's no universal plug-in?
Yeah, so it seems like most other manufacturers are using what's called CHAdeMO. And so CHAdeMO is, I guess, the more widespread charging adapter that's used. But Tesla does have their own proprietary charging port or cable, I should say, port and cable. And so the good thing about Tesla is they've actually opened their patents to any other car manufacturer that's willing to, implement them in their own cars. Unfortunately, it seems like no manufacturer has reached out to Tesla to incorporate the charging mechanism that Tesla uses in their own cars. So although Tesla does use their own charging port, they do have adapters that they provide for their owners. And so, the third-party chargers that you see at the malls and the shopping centers that you said, they're able to be used by Tesla owners because of the adapters that they provide.
Awesome. Well, this has been very insightful. So before we let you go, what final piece of advice would you give for anyone wanting to make the jump to EV, whether it's Tesla or any other EV?
Gas prices tend to fluctuate pretty dramatically from time to time. Electricity prices tend to stay the same for the most part. They do increase with a certain season of the year, and then they drop back down, but it's cleaner on every level. So you see trucks on the road all the time, and there is a bunch of smog coming out of the back. And I feel like we all need to take care of the planet in a certain way. And I feel like EVs are a pretty good step towards doing that. And if they're at an affordable cost and they don't cost in the long run as much as gasoline cars do, then why not? Especially when it's a Tesla and they're cool, hip, good-looking brand. I feel like that's the way to go.
And I know you guys know this firsthand, being out in Los Angeles with all the traffic and all the cars out there. Well, thank you for answering our questions about Tesla. Now, we're at the part of our podcast here we call the E4Q. And the E4Q stands for the exclusive 4 questions we ask all our podcast guests to get personal insight from yourself. You're a pre-med student and also a Tesla fan. So this is, and also a 24-year-old. It's nice to get, different opinions on things here, especially on these 4 questions. So question number 1, Christian, tell us a place you've traveled or an adventure you've done that you feel every man should experience once in their life.
Sure. So thankfully, my family is in a good place where we try to travel once a year. And so if everyone gets a chance to, I think every man should definitely experience the world's only 7-star hotel in Dubai. Yeah. So the Burj Al Arab in Dubai is probably an experience that everyone should have in their life. It could be on the pricier end, but it's worth it.
Well, how much is that? Would you say per night was that stay there?
If I remember correctly, I think it was like 1,400.
All right. So guys, save your pennies. And that sounds like an awesome adventure. All right. Excellent. And then question number 2, what is a skill you possess or you wish you possessed that every man should possess?
So this is a tough one, but I would say not being scared of technology. So it may not sound like a skill, but you can build it up to be a skill. I've always, my whole life, been fascinated with technology, and I've never been the type to pick up or read a manual. I've always just pushed the button on the screen and seen what happens. I always tell my parents when they ask me a question, they're stuck on their phone or something, they're trying to do something. I always tell them, just push the button and see what happens. Your phone's not going to explode on you. And the second time around, you'll have more confidence and you'll know which button to press. And I feel like that is a skill that not very many people have. And once you get over the fear of I may do something wrong that breaks the product, or I may do something that deletes this picture. Once you get it wrong the first time, you won't do it again. And then you'll become extremely comfortable with all kinds of technology, because all technology follows the same patterns. Swipe left for this, swipe right for that, tap on this. So learn about technology and have fun with it. That's probably the best skill any guy can have.
That's an awesome answer, because that segues perfectly into our next question, which is question number 3. Give us an app on your phone that you use that you feel everybody should use.
Sure. So I've had Spotify for quite some time now. For anyone that doesn't know, that is a music streaming service. So it was one of the original music streaming services, actually. Apple Music came after that. And so I've always stuck by Spotify, even though I'm a huge Apple fanatic, just because, all my playlists and songs are there already. But I think Spotify is probably the best app I can recommend for people to use. And if there's students out there, you could get a discount and be paying $4.99 a month instead of their $9.99 a month. So it's definitely an app to download and use.
Yeah, and I heard about that, for that discount for students. And guys who are listening, we are on Spotify as well. So get that app, listen to us, and that's where you can find us there also. So the last question for the evening here, Christian, what piece of advice right now would you give your older self give to your younger self? I mean, what kind of advice would you give to, say, maybe somebody in high school?
So the best piece of advice is one word: focus. My parents always tell me, focus now and you'll live a good life later. So focus on your school, focus on your education, on what's right, what's good, and you can enjoy the fruits of your labor later when you're older. If you play around now, you might have some hardships later. So it makes sense to focus, be determined, and just do your best now. And then, you have your whole life ahead of you to play around.
Excellent. Christian, thank you for joining us here for the podcast today. Now, guys who are listening, everybody, make sure you follow Everything Tesla on Instagram. Like I said, for the latest news on all things Tesla related. Also, you guys have some giveaways going on every so often, and you have one that you're running right now.
Yes, that's right. So we have, in celebration of hitting our 100,000 followers on Instagram, we've partnered with a couple of the companies that have helped us out over the months. So there is an app called the Stats app for all Tesla owners. It's a great app that gives detailed insight on Teslas, on your car specifically, things that the Tesla native app doesn't inform you on. So we're giving away 5 redeem codes for that, and that's a $20 app. So not very many people might be inclined to purchasing it, but they can win through the giveaway that we're doing. And then we've also partnered with Abstract Ocean, which is a third-party Tesla accessories brand. And we're giving away a $50 gift certificate to Abstract Ocean.
Excellent. So guys, make sure you follow Everything Tesla on Instagram. Christian, thank you again for coming on, and we'll love to have you again soon. After you've gotten into medical school, that might be another podcast interview right there.
I hope so. Thank you so much for having me, Radley. Really appreciate it.
All right, thank you, and good luck with everything. There had to be 4 or 5 points about Tesla I had no idea about prior to this interview. Regenerative braking, Tesla potentially offering car insurance. I had no clue. Christian, once again, thank you for enlightening us. Guys, I hope you enjoyed this episode as much as I did, because I plan to have more technology topics covered on future episodes really soon. You gotta stay woke. So on that note, tune again next week for another episode. And remember, guys, go out there and make it happen.
Thank you for listening to the Expert Advice for Men podcast with your host, Belltown Radley. If you enjoyed our show, make sure to rate it 5 stars, leave a positive comment, and share it with your friends. Your support means everything. Until next time, this is the Expert Advice for Men podcast.